The blue whale, the largest animal ever known to have lived on the planet. Bigger than the largest of the dinosaurs. Weighing as much as 200 tons, approximately 33 elephants. This majestic mammal was once found in all of the 4 oceans in the world. But things changed in the early 20th century. A worldwide commercial whaling industry rapidly sprang up thanks to technological advancements. Blue whales are the loudest animal on Earth. Their call reaches 188 decibels, even louder than a jet engine. But humans have been oblivious to their plight. Oil, food, perfume, clothing. Whaling was a grisly business until the International Whaling Commission banned the hunting of blue whales in 1967. Despite the ban, atrocities on these heavyweights continued in some parts of the globe. Today, blue whales are listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act. About 100 years ago, before commercial hunting began, there were an estimated 150,000 to 200,000 blue whales in the ocean. Now there are only 1,500 to 2,500 blue whales left. Numerous other whales are also threatened and endangered, including the North Atlantic right whale, the sei whale, and the western gray whale, and the reasons for their disappearance are many. From noise and marine pollution to climate change, entanglement in fishing gear, or being injured or killed in collisions with large ships, all these whale species are battling the same modern risks. Why is it so important to save these sentinels of the marine ecosystem? And what happens if there are no whales left in the world? These are the whaling ships of Japan, sailing out to hunt for whale meat. The year was 2019, a bunch of whalers rejoicing as Japan resumed commercial whaling. A practice that was banned in 1982 by the International Whaling Commission, a global body charged with the conservation of whales. Japan's last commercial hunt was in 1986, but it had continued whaling under the garb of research missions to the Antarctic. In December 2018, Japan dropped the cover of scientific research. Despite the sparking of global outrage, it withdrew its membership from the International Whaling Commission.
What it means to me is International Whale Celebration.
The Japanese government justifies the practice by introducing a cap on the number of whales killed, and Japan can no longer hunt whales in international waters, including the Antarctic. The whaling ships in Japan have a permit to catch 227 mink, brides, and sei whales in a year in Japanese waters.
Bigger and fatter whale means better meat. We will transport it as fresh as possible, so that old people can taste it and remember the old days. We also want children who have not tasted whale before to try whale meat and start to like it.
When I was a child, we could not afford other meats like beef. Now I eat whale meat sashimi and feel its tasty out of nostalgia.
The coastal town of Taiji in Japan is also infamous for carrying out its controversial annual dolphin hunt. The brutal practice gained global attention when it was the subject of the Oscar-winning documentary, The Cove, in 2009. Fishermen round up dolphins and herd them into a cove, where hundreds are slaughtered for their meat with knives, as the shallow waters turn red. Others are caught alive and sold to aquariums and marine parks. The hunting season lasts from September to February. Like other whaling nations such as Norway and Iceland, the country argues hunting and eating whales are a part of its cultural heritage. But we need to understand why the ban was imposed in the first place. While countries claim the hunt is a tradition, the truth is that the slaughter on this massive scale wasn't even possible until the advent of the powerboat. Today, there are around 90 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises worldwide, known collectively as cetaceans. All are under threat to a certain degree, but some are among the planet's most endangered species.
When you look at the cetacean population, in fact, it is very emblematic of what is happening to the whole of nature. Today, these animals are no longer hunted. Before, that was a cause, but that's no longer the case. On the other hand, they are under attack by many things. Tackling plastic pollution and obviously global warming, of which the Mediterranean is an unfortunately glaring example, all these threats that must be reduced.
Entanglement in fishing gear, known as fisheries bycatch, is the biggest single threat, killing an estimated 300,000 cetaceans every year. Many types of whales were hunted to near extinction in the 20th century for meat and blubber used to make soap and fuel. In order to prevent overhunting of whale species, the IWC called for a moratorium on commercial whaling in 1982. But Japan, along with Norway, voted against this policy. In fact, Norway continues its indigenous hunting. Norway is the biggest hunter by far, netting some 736 minke whales in 2014. Aboriginal subsistence whaling is permitted by the IWC, and 355 whales were taken by indigenous communities in Greenland, Russia's Far East, Alaska, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the same year. But in 2014, the UN International Court of Justice ordered Tokyo to end the Antarctic hunt because it was a facade for commercial whaling. The ruling prompted Japan to cancel that season's hunt. But with its withdrawal from the IWC, whales are again in danger in the bodies of water near Japan.
There are many threats to whales now, other than whaling, such as climate change and pollution of the sea. Despite such circumstances, Japan made the decision to pull out of the IWC, a place for international dialogue, to resume commercial whaling. It is disappointing.
Whaling became prominent in the 19th century, but the process of hunting for whales has been going on for thousands of years now. Norwegians were among the earliest confirmed whale hunters. They began the practice as far back as the 9th century. Nearly every part of these aquatic mammals was used. Their meat, skin, blubber, and organs were eaten as an important source of protein, fats, vitamins, and minerals. From the 16th century to the 19th century, whale oil was principally used as lamp fuel and for producing soap. Whale oil even lubricated the machines of the Industrial Revolution. Balun, a filter-feeding system inside the mouths of whales, was woven into baskets and used as fishing line. And in warmer climes, balun was also used as roofing material. A whale's bones were used primarily for tool making and carving ceremonial items such as masks. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, whaling gained popularity through Northern Europe. The world forgot that whales are not resources that can be harvested unsustainably. The presence of whales shapes the ecosystems around them. Balun and sperm whales are among the largest creatures on Earth. They can live up to 200 years, and their enormous bodies stockpile tons of carbon during this period. Each great whale sequesters around 33 tons of carbon dioxide. When they die, they sink to the bottom of the ocean, taking the carbon with them. Here, it remains for centuries or more. When they are hunted and their carcasses do not sink to the bottom of the seabed, that carbon is released into the atmosphere. In fact, when it comes to carbon sequestering, whales are like giant swimming trees, and one whale is more effective than 1,000 trees. According to one study published by the International Monetary Fund, this is a service of an economic value of $1 trillion for all the great whales. Whale excrement also combats the negative effects of CO2. Though whales feed in the deep ocean, they return to surface to breathe and excrete. Their feces are rich in iron, phosphorus, and nitrogen. It acts as the perfect fertilizer for phytoplankton, a kind of marine algae, and other marine plants, encouraging the growth in their numbers. Phytoplankton may be microscopic, but it is of great significance. It contributes at least 50% of all oxygen to the Earth's atmosphere and captures as much CO2 as 1.7 trillion trees, or 4 Amazon forests. Staggering, isn't it? From the depths of the ocean, these creatures are fighting climate change and also helping determine the temperature of the planet. This is why marine groups and conservationists are rallying to save the whales. This is the Indonesian island of Madura. One morning, 49 short-finned pilot whales were found stranded on the shores of the beach. Rescue missions began immediately to push back these magnificent creatures back into the sea. Volunteers used tarpaulins or just bare hands. But out of 49, 46 mammals died, turning the beach into a graveyard. While the volunteers were successful in pushing 3 of the whales back into the waters, the dead ones were buried once the tide receded. The cause of the death is being investigated. Whales travel together in pods and have been known to follow a leader, as well as gather around an injured or distressed mate. But many believe that the offshore cross currents in the area pose a danger to whales, as they get caught between reefs close to land. Meanwhile, pollution, abandoned nets, and floating plastic waste are some underlying dangers for marine animals. Last year, 10 pilot whales were found dead on another island in the country. The marine mammals, ranging from 2 to 6 meters in length, were found in the remote province of East Nusa Tenggara. But the rescuers managed to push an 11th member of the pod across the baking sands and back into the ocean. They eventually managed to get the creature, which was scarred with deep cuts, into the water, and it appeared to swim off by itself, prompting loud cheers from the crowd.
Menjauh dari pantai menuju ke perairan lepas. Ya, terima kasih.
Meanwhile, in 2018, a dead sperm whale washed ashore in a national park in Indonesia, heartbreaking visuals revealed the mammal had nearly 6 kilograms of plastic waste in its stomach. Items found in the sperm whale included 115 drinking cups, 4 plastic bottles, 25 plastic bags, and 2 flip-flops. The carcass of the 9.5-meter animal was found in the waters near Kapota Island in the Wakatobi National Park. The discovery raised many concerns about the Southeast Asian archipelago's massive marine rubbish problem.
Plastic is not only something mechanical that can be ingested or in which animals can become entangled. It is also chemical compounds, 4 of which are both reprotoxic and endocrine disruptors that can enter the food chain even into whale blubber.
A very similar tragedy is unfolding in New Zealand. More than a dozen pilot whales have died, and many others remain stranded near a narrow sand spit at the northern tip of New Zealand's South Island, despite efforts to move them out to sea. Rescuers managed to refloat many of the whales with the high tide, forming a human chain to guide them to deeper waters. But the pod remained in the shallows for about 80 meters offshore as the outgoing tide worked against them. Some 28 were alive, while 15 were known to have died. Some of the stranded whales started swimming away, but others are milling around not far from shore. Rescue workers are still in the water, trying to encourage the whales to swim off. Mass strandings have become a common scenario in New Zealand and have occurred throughout the recorded modern history. The last mass stranding was seen in February 2017 when an estimated 600 to 700 whales were beached at a farewell spit, leading to 250 deaths. Last year, nearly 100 pilot whales and bottlenose dolphins died in a mass stranding on the remote Chatham Islands, about 800 kilometers off New Zealand's east coast. Why it happens is a question that has left many marine biologists puzzled for years now. Over 51 known species of marine mammals can be found in New Zealand waters. Many people visit New Zealand for whale watching, and it's predominantly centered around the areas of Kaikoura and the Hauraki Gulf. Known as the whale capital, Kaikoura is a world-famous whale watching site, in particular for sperm whales, which is currently the most abundant of large whales in New Zealand waters. The Hauraki Gulf Marine Park is also a significant whale watching area, with a resident population of Bride's whales commonly viewed along dolphins, bottlenose dolphins, and orca, the killer whale. Like New Zealand, Australia too is renowned as a whale-watching destination. 45 species of whales and dolphins live in or migrate through Australian waters, and large numbers of tourists flock to coastal towns around Australia to spot them. Humpback whales are the most common species that can be spotted easily, while the southern right whale, mince whales, and blue whales are also seen. In September 2020, hundreds of longfin pilot whales were found beached on Tasmania's west coast in what was termed as the largest whale stranding in history. More than 450 pilot whales were caught on sandbanks and beaches, out of which 380 were reported dead. 50 whales were rescued and coaxed back to the open ocean. Another such rescue operation, this time for saving short-fin pilot whales, was carried out in Sri Lanka. The island country lying in the Indian Ocean rescued about 120 pilot whales stranded in the country's worst mass beaching. A school of short-fin pilot whales were washed ashore at Panadura, 25 kilometers south of Colombo. Sri Lankan Navy and volunteers pulled back at least 120 whales. Only 2 deaths were reported. Although their exact population numbers are not known, pilot whales are not considered endangered. Unlike them, the gray whale has teetered on the brink of extinction. Gray whales have the longest known migration of any mammal. They travel 10,000 to 12,000 miles round trip every year between their winter calving lagoons in the warm waters of Mexico and their summer feeding grounds in the cold Arctic seas. However, thousands of gray whales are starving and dying off at alarming rates along the Pacific coast. Scientists say the die-off, which is entering its 3rd year, is likely due to the scarcity of food in the animals' cold water feeding grounds. The endangered North Atlantic right whale is also facing increased odds because its main food supply has shifted due to ocean warming. Their population has dropped from 482 in 2010 to about 411 in 2019. In recent decades, several populations of killer whales have also declined. Though known as killer whales, orcas actually belong to the dolphin family. They are the most widely distributed mammals after humans and can be seen around most coastal countries. Orcas are apex predators and have captured the popular imagination. They hunt in deadly pods or family groups of up to 40 individuals.
Stand away from those stern trees!
In the 1975 film, Jaws, the name of the boat used to hunt the great white shark is the orca, because they have been known to prey on sharks and whales. Unfortunately, these marine mammals are also stars of amusement park shows. But orcas taken into captivity or born in captivity don't live too long. Conservation groups have been calling for the end of the practice of keeping them in captivity. Studies into whales and dolphins keep on delivering remarkable findings. Not only do they live in tight-knit social groups and talk to each other, but they even have accents and regional dialects. Scientists have been investigating the meaning of whale song for decades and trying to decipher the highly advanced spoken languages of dolphins. What must these highly intelligent and social animals think of humans and their never-ending greed? Perhaps it's just as well we can't understand them.